Well, as we are learning more about the victims and the horrors witnessed by those who survived the mass shooting inside the Tumbler Ridge school, focus is now turning to the importance of mental health resources, both for the survivors and the community as a whole. Joining us from Hamilton this morning is Margaret McKinnon, professor of psychiatry and behavioral neuroscience at McMaster University. Tumbler Ridge is a community we know of less than 3,000 people. I keep thinking, like, there's the amount of people in that town that are in my kids' high school. How does the size of a community affect how traumatic events with mass casualties are processed?
Yeah, no, thank you for that question. And firstly, my sympathies are really with the families and the survivors, and all those who lost their lives during this tragic time. We know that smaller communities can actually have stronger social bonds. So people support one another, they know one another. But when there are tragic losses like this, it affects all of the community. Most people will know someone who was involved in it, or who had lost their life in the shooting, or who had been harmed during the shooting. And that can be really difficult for communities to process. We know the victims are not only those who lost their lives and the survivors, but also their families, their friends, their peers, the first responders who attended the event, along with the wider community, who can also experience fear and anxiety following an event like this.
The day of the shooting, you released an article in The Conversation about how individuals can react to traumatic events. And you outlined some of the symptoms that are going to show up when survivors are starting this process of working through what they have experienced. Share with us some of the most common.
Yeah, so it can be a variety of things. So we may have physical responses where people feel sick, they have gastrointestinal problems, headaches. We also have cognitive symptoms where people may feel guilt about perhaps surviving the event where others didn't. They feel a sense of disconnection from others around them. They may feel numbed out, are not present in their bodies. There may be nightmares, and also responses when we remind of traumatic events, avoidance. Really a whole host of responses that people have, and they're not necessarily the same across individuals, which is why it's really important for us to think about the whole range of symptoms that people may experience following an event like this.
The children involved in this mass shooting at the secondary school between the ages of 12 and 13, and one father shared that his daughter lost 4 of her friends in that shooting. What role does the age of survivors play in the healing process?
Yeah, we certainly know that after a mass shooting, those who are younger, those who are female, and those who belong to racial or ethnic minorities are more likely to experience traumatic stress following the event. We also know that children may express their feelings in different ways. We may see it in play. We may see it in increased irritability, maybe more fighting at home. We need to be aware of the whole host of responses that children may have. But certainly the most important thing here is the provision of mental health supports for those children, their families, the first responders, and for the community. And those supports should be age appropriate for those who are receiving them. In rural communities, there's often an absence of on-the-ground mental health and well-being supports, and we certainly need those to be brought in for the community and to be sustained in the long term, because these effects will last for many years beyond what's the immediate present.
And in your experience, what are long-term supports needed in place in this community, especially if symptoms, even just the symptoms, can persist for up to a year afterwards?
Yeah, we would certainly want to see mental health counselors. We would want to see a community support center set up for all members of the community. We would want those supports to be longer term so that survivors and others affected can reach out for someone, a month from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years.
It is early days for this discussion in Tumbler Ridge, but in covering other both school shootings and incidents of mass casualty, landmarks are a big stressor for young people. So you've got a school where 24 people are injured, where kids have witnessed their classmates being killed. We've seen in the United States when there's been mass school shootings, those buildings have been taken away. One student yesterday saying, I don't know if I can go back there. What kind of supports need to be in place around that? Because heading back to school is part of the healing we know for young people, where they're with their friends, where you're returning to day-to-day life. But talk to us about the trauma of returning to that building.
Yeah, so we certainly know that reminders of traumatic incidents can bring on additional symptoms or bring on new symptoms. What ideally we want to do, I agree with, the building being changed. I think that would be very helpful. As well, having mental health and well-being supports directly with the children when they return to school. So not expecting them to be there on their own, but actually having support in the building with them, even on a one-on-one basis.
We know that schools are closed in BC right now, Margaret, but based on your experience, what is a timeline for return to routine for the students who survived?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Certainly within the family, we want to be maintaining routines as much as possible. In terms of returning to school, I don't know the answer to that question, but I think it would be very important to look very carefully at the scientific literature surrounding that, as well as advice from clinicians and others to really understand when the best way would be.
Margaret McKinnon, Professor of Psychiatry and Behavioral Neuroscience at McMaster University. Thank you for your time this morning.
Well, it's my pleasure. And again, I'm so sorry.
Thanks, Margaret. If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.